if you're vegan, you're definitely not going to turn pro. So I wanted to prove people wrong. When I did my first MPC show and I got second and qualified automatically, I think that gave me the confidence to really go for it because I love bodybuilding. I feel like I was like made for it.
The sex drive component when you get stage ready, I would much rather eat a muffin than have sex right now.
Started educating ourselves so much about it because at the beginning we were kind of blinded.
Just really learn what works for your body.
It was an interesting era.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today I had the pleasure of sitting down with Fit Vegan chef herself, Natalie Matthews, and her incredible husband, George Matthews. We got to talk about her journey and their journey and transition to veganism, how they handle that transition while staying fit, while continuing to build muscle. Natalie's journey to becoming a vegan IFBB Pro. You don't have to be a vegan to be IFBB Pro, but she was vegan while she did it, which is extremely impressive. George being a helicopter pilot, his whole journey to transition to that, how they are both able to kind of build a lifestyle around veganism and fitness. We talked about some of Natalie's incredible recipes that she's been posting on YouTube, which honestly, I was watching those videos way before I started Fit Vegan coaching. It had a lot of incredible recipes that I want you guys to kind of take a look at. Just a beautiful conversation about how to handle being lower in your calories, making sure you hit your protein while you're going through a body recomposition phase, how she handled being in prep for bodybuilding shows for 8 years in a row, and how now they're making a transition to being more hybrid athletes, and how that's changed their training and how that's changed their nutrition and their philosophy to fitness and health. And so you guys are going to enjoy the episode. Sit back, grab your vegan popcorn, and enjoy. All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. Perfect. So, well, Natalie and George, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you both on here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. You guys are you're the original Fit Vegan, because when I came up with Fit Vegan, you already had been around for a long time.
Yeah, I think the name came about like when I went to culinary school and I was like, well, I like being vegan and I'm a chef. So, and I'm into fitness. So Fit Vegan Chef. And that's like, you know, when like the IG handles were like, you know, cool to not have your name. That's how it all came about.
Yeah. And then now it's the opposite. They're expensive if you're trying to buy yours back with your real name.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's wild.
Yeah.
George was
awesome.
The smart one here.
That's true.
Yeah. George, I think you have yours, right?
I have mine, but I had to put my full middle name in there to make it work. Okay. But yeah, it's just my name.
Yeah, that's why I reached out to the guy that had like Maxim, just clean, $50K that he wanted for it.
No way.
And your name was like so original too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna skip on it. I'm not gonna buy it.
Same.
Yeah. So we'd love to dive into you guys' story because you're both into fitness, both super fit, both plant-based. So kind of how did you all come about being vegan? Did it happen before you got married, after you got married? Did one transition before the other to kind of coax the other one into it? Kind of what's you guys' story?
It kind of happened together on accident. I was vegetarian for way before I met George, kind of again by accident because I'm Puerto Rican, so I didn't know what the word vegan or vegetarian meant. I ate pretty much a regular vegetarian diet, but mostly cheese. It was cheese, and that was it. And then George, when
we met, I had cut out pretty much everything except fish. So I was basically a pescatarian, and I've been that way for 3 or 4 years. And dairy was actually the first thing I cut out. So when we kind of met, together we made a vegan essentially. So after a while, it just made sense to cut out the other stuff. And really for health is how it started. And then together when we started exploring it and researching it, we learned more about the ethical and the environmental part of it and haven't looked back since then.
And how many years ago was that?
11 years, a little over 11 years.
Okay. And were you guys already into the realm of fitness at that point? Because I know you're doing CrossFit, competing into fitness competition. Were you already in that world when you transitioned, or was that before?
Sort of. I did sports growing up and everything, and at that point in my life, I wouldn't say I was really into fitness. I like did some stuff here and there. I worked out a little bit, and then really once I went plant based, I got more passionate about it and more serious about fitness and working out and just progressing in my fitness.
Yeah, and I was doing competitive surfing, but George was the one that kind of started doing the bodybuilding. I went to one of his shows and I was
Nice.
backstage, and I've done like a little cut with him because, you know, when your significant other is prepping for something like that, you want to be as supportive as possible. So I was like, I'll do a cut with you. So I guess I was pretty lean, and I was backstage helping him out, and everybody was asking, are you going to get on stage? And I'm like, I don't know, but should I? And that's kind of like what sparked the whole going into bodybuilding. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you definitely want to be supportive. You don't want George to be like super low on body fat. You're like, this ice cream is so good at night. You're ordering all your favorite food. So that's interesting. So basically, you went full on into it. George, you still do bodybuilding? Do you still like step on stage and compete from time to time?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I did that first when I first started. So when I went plant based and vegan and stuff, I heard a lot like, "Hey, you're gonna lose all your muscle. You can't be strong." This, that, and the other thing. So then I was like, "Well, I'll show them, and I'll try bodybuilding." So I wanted to compete, and I got really lean. I was really small, but I got really lean, and then went on stage, and then I learned that I don't like being hungry, and I'm not a pleasure to be around when I'm hungry. So that was kind of the end of my bodybuilding career. I did two seasons,
Yeah.
so I did basically 3 shows, and that was it. And then no, not anymore, not at all.
Yeah, and then I took over.
Yeah, then she took over.
Yeah, I took over, and then he kind of transitioned into doing other things in fitness. But bodybuilding stuck with me for 8 years. I just absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with like sharing my story, and just like George started doing it because he wanted to inspire people or show people that you can build muscle on a vegan diet. That's kind of like what really inspired me. That became like my whole why. And so, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are good. I did one show and I was like, never again. I'm not doing this.
It's hard.
The hunger, the tan, the bloat. Like, I don't know I'm curious to know what you guys' experience was after your first show. I went from like shredded 6-pack and I put on 50 pounds in 30 days after. There was no game plan. He was just like, hey, you're done. I was like, I'm done. Let me just eat everything I've been wanting to eat. And there was just this hole I couldn't fill. So I'm curious, like, how did you guys deal like post first show?
I put on some weight because I was very lean too, and I didn't really know a plan after similar thing. And I mean, on a hormone level, there's all the stuff with the leptin and ghrelin basically that happens, and like I could eat strange amounts of food and I didn't get full. I remember we just moved to Houston at the time, and there was a vegan like buffet. It was like a Chinese buffet that was vegan, and I would go in and eat strange amounts of food. I would have probably like 4 or 5 plates, like not a normal amount that anyone would consider eating. And I would just be able to do that over and over again. So I put on some weight. I don't remember, probably 20 pounds that I ended up putting on. And then I started like basically dieting down for the next one. And then after that, I did a better job in the second one. But I didn't get as lean in my second season, so it was a little bit easier to kind of reverse out of it. But you've been good, and you got better every time.
Yeah, I feel like my first season actually went pretty well. I had a great coach, Paul Ravella, and he's kind of known for teaching people how to reverse diet. So that kind of set me up for a great path and a great like first season. And I come from a background, being Puerto Rican, like dieting is not a part of our culture. So I was like in my mid-20s, never had dieted in my whole life. So I feel like I was in a really good spot, I feel like. And I also did really well with being okay being hungry, if that makes sense. Like I could shut it off. So it was almost like I was made for the sport. So that's how I've been able to do it for 8 years. But Yeah, it is really, really hard. And there was a season where I really struggled. I think it was 2019. And I think that was when my body was like, okay, you're pushing it too hard. And right after, I kind of have like, I don't care. I'm not going to reverse this season and I'm just going to give it a try. So that was the first time that I was like, I kind of rebounded, but not really. I think I gained like 15 pounds in that season, but I felt like I
That's not
needed
bad.
it. It wasn't too bad. It went to muscle, and then I didn't go straight into a cut. I continue just kind of recomping and really focusing on building. Like I made a, I took that opportunity and turned it into something positive and learned from that experience as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned you reverse dieted after. So I know there's like a clear definition of reverse dieting, but some people do it two ways. They just go right back up to maintenance, or they kind of slowly increase back up to maintenance. What do you guys kind of do after a cut typically?
Yeah, it's very strategic and it depends on the individual. Some people can take it very slowly, depending on how big their season was or how shredded they got. If it's somebody that has been in very low body fat for a very long time, it's probably smart to do bigger increases to get them back to that like normal place where they can feel like they can take a breath and like not feel so overwhelmed by those hunger signals that you can't shut off at that point. But for me, we always would take it small increases and it would take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. And then we would get to a really good point where calorie wise, the body does the crazy thing when it's that lean. And sometimes you can take a lot of advantage and make bigger increases and your metabolism just ramps up. It's really, really cool. I remember one of my reverse just getting up to like 2,300 in those 8 weeks. And I was like, I can't believe I ate this much, So that was pretty cool.
It feels good. The strength that comes, you go deadlifting, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Like a normal amount of weight. You're just not like heavy and sore every time you go back in the gym.
Exactly. You finally feel like you can progress.
Yeah, yeah. So, I did obviously a bunch of research on you guys before we kind of started the episode. You guys have been making more of a transition to kind of hybrid athlete versus kind of like pure bodybuilding style of training. What was when was the decision made that made you guys want to go in this direction? Because I've been in the bodybuilding world. They hate running. I trained with Tori. I was like, oh, let's go for a run. He's like, I don't run, man.
You
So
said the same thing to me.
yeah. So he's like, what made you guys want to go down that path? Because I feel like the endurance sports are gaining in popularity now online. More people are people are not even starting with 10K races. They're like, I want to run 100 miles in the middle of the desert this summer. So what made you guys go in that direction?
You want to go first since you were?
Sure. Yeah. I did the bodybuilding, and then when I finished that, I realized I didn't love it. I didn't like the way I felt, like you said, being hungry and stuff. So then I wanted to continue to like do fitness in some way. So then I dabbled in powerlifting a little bit. I thought I was going to compete in that, but then I didn't. And then there was a point in my life, it was right as we were leaving Houston, where there's a hero workout, a CrossFit hero workout for the Coast Guard pilots that have passed away. And in that, there's a 400-meter run. And I almost died on the 400-meter run. And I was like, I'm really out of shape. Like, this is not good. Because I'd been an athlete before. Like, I did some martial arts and stuff in the past and, like, played sports. And when I ran that, I was like, wow, I'm really out of shape. Like, this is bad. And so then I started, like, incorporating a little bit more, like, cardio stuff. And then when we moved to California, I really just wanted to make some friends. And I was like, well, I like fitness and people that like fitness. So I'll do CrossFit because I know that that's like a way to meet friends. So I started going to a CrossFit gym and I fell in love with it. I really like the sport. I like the style of training, and I like that basically you can do anything and call it CrossFit, from
Yeah.
sprint workouts to running to biking to whatever it is. And so once I started doing that, I just incorporated more running, more longer cardio stuff, and then I really fell in love with just some of the running and the longer distance stuff because of the mental aspect of it, of just being out. Like, I don't bring a phone or wear headphones or anything, and I'll just be out in nature running around with my thoughts or whatever for an hour. And I've just really started to enjoy that. And so that was really it. It was just a change of pace of things, and finding what made me happy was doing all different sports and different kinds of sports.
Nice. So the diversity basically was entertaining versus like, hey, we're just going to be in the gym, even though it's super sunny outside.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Where were you guys in California?
We lived in Ventura, or just south of Ventura in Oxnard, and then about an hour north of LA.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'm Canadian originally, but
okay.
I live in Thousand Oaks now.
No worries. So yeah, you're right there.
How long have you been there?
Just over a year now that we've
been. Wow. So you just missed us then. Because we left pretty much at the same time. That's crazy. Yeah, so you weren't far from us at all.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Did you guys have your own gym here or something here? Or you...
Temporarily.
We did. So when I started CrossFit at that gym in California, like I said, I fell in love with it, and the gym they were going to close down. And so we always wanted to own a gym. We love fitness. We're like, why don't we try and see if we can buy this gym? So we took over the gym, and then that was about a month before COVID happened. And so then we got shut down for a while, and then kind of made it through that, kept it going, and then it's still there. And my coach is one of my good friends. He owns it now and has it still going. It's got like a different name and different kind of stuff going on, but yeah, it's still there, still around, right? And
yeah, that was bad. That was bad timing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Before COVID.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, we had a place to work out the entire time, so
it's that like a shooting studio.
Yeah, worked out.
Yeah, awesome. And for you, Natalie, what made you want to transition to kind of doing more cardiovascular exercise?
Well, I love bodybuilding, and I fell in love with it. I feel like I was like made for it, but over the last few years, I'm sure if you follow the sport, a lot has changed, and the performance enhancement side of things kind of like took off, and I'm not about that, and I don't want to put my body through that. I'm not here to judge anybody that does it, and I feel like naturally I just reached like as high as I could in the sport, and that's okay, and I'm really happy with what I did, but I was like, you know what, I'm not going to take that route, so what's next? And I'm somebody that can easily pivot. It was a hard pivot for me because my whole identity has been that for 8 years. But George he's such an inspiration, such a great athlete that I was just like, I want to hang out with you more. And, because before we used to do so much training together when he was bodybuilding and I was bodybuilding. But then when he went to do his CrossFit and I was like just competing, like my whole life was that. So this is a great way where we can just hang out together again, and it can challenge me in a different way. Just like him, I realized that my cardiovascular is so terrible. So it's been a challenge, and it's been really fun to be a newbie again at something and learn and share my journey again. And it's kind of like lit up this spark in me all over again. So yeah, I'm falling in love with a different type of movement and just not putting myself into a capsule anymore. And I think there's always ways to like pivot and just continue to grow in different ways.
Yeah. And I think there's been a lot of people in the bodybuilding and the fitness movement kind of transitioning and pivoting to doing a lot of other different sports, because it does get boring to just like, it's fun to be in the gym, but you want to kind of include other things in there. And, bonus, you get to eat a bit more food. You don't have to like lean out and get super lean all year round, which you're both already pretty lean, but you don't have to be like stage ready.
Exactly. And there's such a huge difference there. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize how big of a difference is stage lean versus like lifestyle lean, and how good you feel. Like that gap is completely different.
Yeah. No, it's people don't know until they go through it. And like we can talk about this if you guys are comfortable with it, but the sex drive component when you get stage ready, like I had a partner at the time, I was like, I love you, but I would much rather eat a muffin than have sex right now, right? Like that muffin just looks so good. So like all desires go, not saying motivation goes too, but it's just like the blah energy.
Yeah,
throughout the day.
It takes a lot to get that lean, and you start prioritizing other things, and it just getting up is a struggle. And I'm not trying to like, be negative or anything with the bodybuilding world, because I love the building side of it just as much, but it is an extreme sport and you do have to take your body to extremes, and that's what it takes.
Yeah, it's I like one of my bodybuilding coaches, the way he put it, it's like it's a cherry on top of the sundae. Like
Mhm.
you can have the sundae, you don't need to have the cherry on top of it if you don't want to. But to at
Exactly.
least like it was cool to experience to know what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember like my body just stopped sweating the week before the show. Like I just
Wow.
would not sweat, and I was like, "What?" I had sweaters. I was like, "What is happening?" Anyways, I didn't go back. I did a bunch of half Ironmans and stuff. So you get to eat more
Oh, nice.
food, long distance outside, you spend great time outdoors with great people. So I think it's fun because you guys get to train together now. You actually get to go on
Yeah.
runs and you guys bike together, you go swimming.
No, we
Not
haven't
right
done that
now.
yet. We used to surf a lot together, but there's not much surf here. So hopefully we'll get to do a trip soon. But we've been doing the CrossFit and the runs together. I'm
Nice.
kind of afraid of the bike, to be honest, but and going here in Florida, like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
Florida's a little crazy.
Yeah.
These
The,
roads are
the
dangerous.
drivers are
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys just moved there, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I went there for a Tony Robbins event like a few months ago, and I've
Oh,
never
Oh,
really driven to Florida. And holy smokes,
nice.
just like people are changing lanes, no signal, nothing. They're
No,
cutting you like, like half of a foot from your bumper. And you're like, what is happening here?
it's
Yep.
chaos.
Yeah. So I understand why you wouldn't want to cycle on the road. And there's different to be clipped in too, right?
Yeah.
Like freaking out, losing the balance, and then you just fall. You just
Or,
fall on the side, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm such a clumsy person. Yeah. No, I'm not made for that just yet. Maybe in the future.
Yeah. So I'm curious as to like, because obviously it's called the Fit Vegan Podcast, so people are vegan and kind of wanting to kind of transition. So I'm curious as to how your nutrition shifted from before you went vegan to the bodybuilding kind of fitness era to now being hybrid. Is how you guys shifted that? Probably more good food now, but
Oh, yeah. Our vegan journey was kind of all over the place because we started as, you know, when we were first going into veganism, the only thing that was around was the high carb, low fat situation. So we tried
yeah,
that for a while, for a couple of years actually. And
yeah,
then when we got really into bodybuilding, that's when we transitioned to the high protein. And that's when I saw my body absolutely transform. So we have stayed there this whole entire time. And I still eat this way. I still eat high protein and moderate carbs, sometimes high carbs, and mostly whole food plant based. And I feel like the difference is mainly I get to eat a lot more and I'm maintaining, and sometimes I lose weight and it's almost like a struggle to keep weight on now that I've added more cardio and I'm doing other things. So it's been really interesting, but I have not lost any muscle adding cardio, which was something that in the bodybuilding community, so many people like scared you so much of like adding cardio. So it was something that I was really
yeah,
nervous of doing after putting 8 years of intentionally building. I'm like, where is it going to go? And so I just kept my protein the same and more carbs, more fats. And I just make sure to keep an eye on my weight and make sure that at least it's maintaining. So,
yeah, and I think
yeah,
too some of the skills, transitioning first from like regular standard American diet, and like I didn't eat very well, and then when I got into fitness, just like learning how to do macros and track and all that stuff. And then when you go and bodybuild, you really learn how to do that and like manipulate those things. And those are skills that I think we still use in these other sports where it's like easily we know that we can change our weights or our body fat percentages if we need to and make small adjustments and do that. And you see that when you start going, like for me, I have to eat a lot of food just because of the high training volume. And so we're almost always like increasing my calories and stuff. And then really it's just like the amount of tracking and how exact you need to be. So, when she's doing the bodybuilding, it was for the whole prep or a year, it was everything was weighed and measured exactly. And now we
yeah,
still like track, but I mean, for the most part, like we'll go out to dinner on the weekends and not really track it so much or like loosely track it. And you just don't have to be as exact. And especially when you're not at that low of a body fat, like you'll find like even we went for like a week vacation and didn't really track and kind of ate out and did whatever and then came back and your weight is about the same. Like,
yeah.
so it's just kind of learning, I think, how to eat and how to manipulate the energy systems and the calories to match the energy, which has been fun to do in different sports.
Yeah, and the people that have never tracked for an extensive period of time don't know how beautiful it feels to just go out and kind of roughly track it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have those sweet potatoes. I'm gonna have this, and you're just like, it's kind of 400 calories. It looks good.
Right.
Yeah, tracking teaches you so much. I love it. And I encourage my clients and everybody to do it, at least, when they're starting their fitness journey and they really have specific goals. You have to do very specific things to get there, and tracking is one of them. And I feel like it just teaches you so much about what's in your plate, because people truly don't know what a serving looks like of pretty much anything. And it's kind of crazy when you look at some food labels these days. So like one little cookie like this could have four servings, and people are just eating them, like multiple ones. So it's wild.
Yeah. So you're good at like spotting, like I can spot like what's a tablespoon of ketchup now. Like,
I am weird about it. It's almost like a GIF. I could look at something, and I think that's what
it's impressive to watch.
Yeah.
She can know like to a gram how much everything is just by looking at it. And then she has this like memory of exactly, like, you can name a food and she knows the macro breakdown of it just in her head. No idea. So it's impressive.
8 years of tracking food, eventually it just kind of sinks in, right?
Yeah, it's second nature for her.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, does it bother you? Is it stressful? I'm like, at this point, it's habit for me. So for me, it's nothing stressful, and I still track, but now it's like George says, a little bit more flexible. And because when it was bodybuilding time, I was tracking even condiments, so now it's just, I'm at this point where I'm really happy with where my physique is at, and performance comes prior to physique. And that's just so refreshing. So it's really cool to see how we can manipulate those calories for our new current goals.
Yeah, I love to talk about that transition from the beginning when you're eating high carb to high protein, because you mentioned you guys have been vegan for 11 years now. I'm going on a decade this October. So we pretty much went vegan around the same time. And that was the era of like Frilly the Banana Girl, Durian Rider, all these guys like Raw Till 4 and the whole raw vegan movement. It was really big at that time. And I got in the same boat as you guys. And it was the 80-10-10. You're just consuming so much carbs. And for me, it was the opposite. So I used to be a bodybuilder. So I used to be 240 pounds, and I had to get skinny to do high fashion modeling. So I went like, I'm just going to not eat protein in the form of, dense source. And I did a bunch of cardio, stop weightlifting, lost 80 pounds in a year, was able to model in Italy, do all that fun stuff. But to me, it was like, I was trying to lose muscle. Yeah. And so for you guys, when was the wake up call of like, this high carb thing is just not working for building muscle or like retention of building muscle, to like, okay, we're going to maybe adopt some of the components of bodybuilding? And how did you guys adjust? Because when I was bodybuilding, like the rule back in the day was like 1 to 2 grams per pound of body weight. Like that's a lot of protein. 240, that's like, 350, 400 grams of protein. So how did you guys make that transition and kind of know what guidelines to go for, like over a decade ago when it wasn't as popular of information?
I mean, we made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. So when it's funny you mentioned that in your question, we had the same question. And what I did was, I remember talking to her about this and being like, well, I'm fine with this 80-10-10, because she was all about it. I'm like, but I need to make sure that I'm getting about a gram per pound of lean body mass of protein. So we were like reverse engineering it and being like, well, it was like over 5,000 calories. And I'm like, well, I guess we're just going to have to eat 5,000 calories. And so I was eating, essentially 5,000 calories of like Raw Till 4, 80-10-10, like giant jars of like, we were going through cases of bananas and like doing all that. And then I don't know how long that went on for, but I think pretty soon we we're like, this is not the right answer. Like, this isn't really working. Just like the digestion.
Digestion was just terrible.
And then this amount of food, it was just strange how much I was eating of.
It's a lot of fiber.
Giant bowls of rice. And we just realized like, I don't know if this is the right thing. So then I think it must have been when I started actually like getting a coach in bodybuilding, that I think we like learned more about like what a bodybuilding diet and those macros, and like more of a balance, like, and really it's the simple, like the, 1 gram per pound, and then fill up the rest with carbs and fat, and then just figuring out that amount of calories based on your rate of weight gain or weight loss. Like we figured that out, and that was like a major revelation. And I was like, okay, this works. And then we kind of just moved from raw to like, okay, there's some benefit of eating like raw fruits and vegetables. Like let's keep some of that in, and then merged it with the other stuff. So it was like a learning curve. And it's funny that you did it too, because whenever we have this conversation, it's like we're always a little bit like embarrassed to talk about it, because I'm like, yeah, like looking back, I'm like, these were not good ideas. But a lot of people have been through, like you said, the same exact thing. That era, it was like we all did that, and it was just that was what was out there.
Yeah, there was not a lot of education around it, and that's kind of what inspired me to start documenting my journey and being like, hey, there's other ways of doing things, and here's how you can eat for this goal. And we started educating ourselves so much about it, because at the beginning we were kind of blinded to the whole thing and just following, because we would see results just like anybody else.
That was the only thing that was available.
Yeah. So once you start educating yourself and you try things, mess up and try again, learn from those experiences, I think we found that perfect mashup. And relatively, like I never cut carbs. Like even when I was doing bodybuilding at my leanest, my calories would get very low, but I never went to what is considered low carb. So that just goes to show you, like, you can manipulate calories. So it's not so much about like high carb, low, all these little labels. It's really about calories in, calories out. So once we learned that, that really helped us. And when you have very specific body composition goals, like growing muscle, protein is such a huge component of it, that in that type of like movement, it wasn't the thing. People weren't interested in growing muscle. They just wanted to, bike longer or do all those things. So
yeah, well, it was an interesting era.
Yeah.
Right?
But everyone was around that time went through the same thing.
Yeah,
so
we're not alone.
We're not alone.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember drinking a lot of Gatorade, doing Banana Island, like eating 30 bananas a day, and like banana ice cream and banana shakes. Yeah. Hey, I liked it. Banana ice cream was awesome. It was good, but same as you guys, like going from that fitness side to transitioning to that, like a super high carb, low fat, low protein, I just started to look soft and pudgy. And as I was going to like getting skinnier for modeling, I didn't need to have a lot of muscle, or else I wouldn't fit in the clothes that they wanted me to fit in. But then when it was time to like bathing suit and stuff, like you're looking soft and fat. They're pretty direct, all right? They're like, you look fat, and I was like, but I'm skinny. And I was like, okay, well, there has to be like something to it. I was like, okay, when I was bodybuilding, like what was the most important factor? Well, it was resistance training, and protein was obviously super important. So then I kind of had the same realization as you guys, like, what if I just bump up the protein? And that changed everything, right? That was like the thing that made the biggest difference. So I feel like it would be unfair to not talk about protein, since, we're all into fitness and shape. What's the protein number that you guys are aiming for per day? What's kind of like your rule or guideline for yourself and for your clients?
I personally like doing anywhere from 1 gram to 1.2. That's what's worked for me. So it is a little bit higher than what other women
per pound,
per pound of body weight. So it's a little bit higher than what normal, I would say, somebody my size would have, but I really like protein and I don't struggle getting it. So my ranges are like 130 to 140 sometimes. Recently, I bumped it down to 120 just to see how I would feel. But I really prefer the 130 to 140. I'm satiated, my digestion is great, and I just feel better. And for George, I have him on the same thing. I do his macros and I cook, so I have him roughly on the same.
I don't even know what my protein. Who knows?
I just eat the food that's there. That's a great deal.
Yeah, I'm spoiled.
It's a great deal.
So his is anywhere from like 160 to 170.
Okay. I'm around that range too, like the 160 range. So what are kind of some of the main foods that you guys consume to make sure you get that amount of calories, that amount of protein? And the twist of that question is, how do you get all that protein in when you're at the end of your cut on a super low amount of calories? How do you manage to do that?
So I love using vital wheat gluten. I love seitan. We are not celiac or gluten intolerant, so we can handle it, and I love it, and it's what I've been using since I started bodybuilding and it digests great, I have like this great recipe that I made with lupini beans. So it bumps up the fiber intake, which is super important. And then you have like a little whole food mix with that. So it's awesome. And I also use a lot of tofu. We don't use a lot of tempeh, surprisingly.
We used to.
We used to, yeah.
We go through phases with tempeh.
I know. Pea protein crumbles are a big one for me too. And just a standard protein powder. So that's kind of how I rotated, and sometimes like protein pastas and things like that. And with other veggies and carbs that have protein will like bump up everything else. So once you pick like your standard proteins for the day and you pick your carbs and fat, you'll notice that that number continues to grow because some carbs and fats do contain protein.
Yeah. So I tell people, like, if you build your meal around the kind of like a bodybuilder, right? You build your meal around the protein. You have like a block of tofu, and then you add, some quinoa, some mushrooms, some broccoli. Like, you just maybe add an extra like 5 to 10 grams of protein just with the accessory foods around the tofu.
Exactly. And then when I was prepping for a show and calories got low, I would do the same thing. I would just pick my proteins, and then I made sure to pick a variety of carbs that were mainly veggies, because at some point the calories are so low that rice is just not as filling. So I'll pick veggies, potatoes, and I'll make sure to have color. I always made sure that even when my calories were very low, that I was picking a variety of colors just to ensure that I was getting enough vitamins and minerals from my diet, and I wasn't completely, shooting myself in the foot. So always like carrots, seaweed, kale, spinach, those are my favorites. Sometimes asparagus, but I would go through phases with that one. Same protein sources, the seitan tofu, pea protein crumbles, and a great plant-based protein powder. And then in terms of fats, I would keep just avocado. Even if it was like 20 grams of avocado, I would keep it in because I wanted to get really good healthy sources of fat that had fiber. Very rarely I would use nuts and seeds again because they weren't super filling, but I would try to sprinkle like hemp seeds or flax and chia seeds whenever I could, even if it was the bare minimum.
I love to talk about the end of the cut and how creative you get with food. Because again, I don't think people understand how much of like a genius cook you become when you're limited in calories and you're just like, I want something good and I'm going to concoct something that's going to fill my taste buds and be delicious. I saw you guys have a Ninja Creamy. We have one as well. That's been kind of like a game changer for like, because I'm doing a body recon phase right now for like some basketball stuff. Because I was too heavy to like dunk properly. So every pound I lose, I tend to gain an inch as I'm jumping. So
that's crazy. That's
wild.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's been really fun. But yeah, so one little cut. So the Ninja Creamy is really handy. So what are some of you guys' strategies when you get towards when you're lower in calories, or when people in general are doing a cut and they're lower in their calories? Like I just remember, slicing thinly cucumbers, salt and pepper, nutritional yeast, and I would just enjoy every little slice that I would have, and it'd be this big plate. So yeah, what do you guys do that's a little weird at the end of a fat loss?
Before there was the Ninja Creamy, I would just do it with the Vitamix. I would do my own ice cream in the Vitamix, and that saved me so much. I wish the Ninja Creamy was available when I prepped. It would have been amazing. But then the other thing, I did do the cucumber thing a lot, like cucumber salads with tomatoes and lots of herbs and spices, and so yummy. What's the craziest thing I made you? I know you always tasted all my food because I made brownies, mug cakes, pretty much anything you can imagine. I would make it fit somehow.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun creating recipes. So
her food would be surprisingly good. And I think what she was good at too is, like she said, like she would spend a lot of time like making the food appetizing. So even though it was like not a huge volume of food, she would still make sure it like tasted good, looked good, and like felt like a meal. So you're getting that whole experience still. And I think that helped. And then, just learn. I mean, you learn so much along the way, like what worked and what didn't. Like one of the big ones was, I think we used to try and cheat a little bit with like so many, like have a whole thing of spinach and like leafy greens, like the high volume. But then we learned like really like potatoes and some of those like more dense thing tended up being more satiating. And I don't know, you just really learn what works for your body And like she, over the years, like every prep, she got better and better and like figured out what worked. My solution, I just avoid ever being in a deficit pretty much.
That's one way to do it.
The sushi bowls are such a good one for me because you basically have a high raw meal, but you have something that covers like all parts of the palate basically, and it gives you that umami situation that people really look for when they're trying to eat food. So always including some type of fermented food in there, like a sauerkraut or a pickled beet or a pickled onion, something that really, I don't know, calms all of those senses down. Because when you're hungry, you know, you want it all. And sometimes what you're looking for is that flavor because you're tired of eating just rice, asparagus, and a protein, right? So that's the big thing for me. And I got better at it when I started having variety. And popcorn. Popcorn is another great one when you're dieting. Very high in fiber, high volume, has a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat. It just covers all the basics.
And you used to use the Zevia too. The
Zevia drinks. Yeah. The Zevia drinks, whenever I was craving something like super sweet or bubbly, like instead of having a regular sparkling water, I would have a little Zevia drink. And grape one was my favorite.
Yeah, the bubbles, I mean, it kind of just fills you up a little bit. Like if you have it with a meal, just we would do that when we're hungry.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because there's a point where my calories get to a certain level that then the fridge is loaded with Pellegrino. Like, calories are low when there's a bunch of Pellegrino in the fridge. Just drink them throughout the day. You guys ever tried, because I used to do this dish back in the day, it was konjac noodles. Because there's like they're super low in calories.
I have a story.
Go for it.
But the content of fiber in these is so wild, it destroyed our stomach. Like I was not able to digest that at all. So I stopped using it. I know it works for some people, but gosh, I couldn't handle it.
It was I can't do the Vital Wheat gluten. It just messed up my stomach. So the konjac noodle, I would like stir fry some like mushrooms, some broccoli, some bell peppers, some pea protein, and with some soy sauce because I just wanted sodium for that muscle contraction in the gym, and then a bunch of konjac noodles. For people who've never tried it, like rinse the shit out of it because it smells so strong. But it's filling, right? It is filling, but it could be hard on the gut because it is pretty high in fiber.
What I used to do, because I couldn't handle that one, and I was seeing everybody back then, everybody was doing the really cool dishes with the konjac noodles. I was like, okay, I'm going to make zucchini noodles instead. So that's what I started using a lot, zucchini noodles.
Oh, yeah. We did see those a lot.
Yeah. Every prep, I had like a different phase where I like completely obsessed over something particular. There was the zucchini phase. There was the pancake phase, like where I was always having pancakes. So, yeah.
That was my last cut when I was living in Tulum in Mexico. I had stacks of pancakes every morning. That was like, I'd fast, I'd save my calories, I go train, I come back, and I make a massive stack of pancakes.
That's one way of doing it. Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah. So do you guys actually do that when you're lowering your calories? Like to me, I don't consider it fasting because I'll still have like coffee, maybe with a little bit of creamer or something in there. But do you guys kind of like delay your calories and save more of them for the afternoon, or are you trying to spread everything evenly throughout the day?
Well, right now, because I have so much to eat, it's smarter for me to just spread it out throughout the day. But if it was a cut, usually I would eat from early to like 4, and then 4 would be my last meal. So we were like pretty early, like dinner people.
Oh, then you guys are good, because I would save up, like if I had 2,200 calories, I'd save 1,200 of them for dinner. I would just make sure I would feast at night. I'd go to bed and I'd feel good. I couldn't go to bed hungry.
I noticed that at nighttime I wasn't as hungry because I wasn't moving as much. So in the day, because we're so active and we tend to train really early in the morning, I feel like food around that was best for me. But yeah, I felt great.
She can also too, more than anyone I've ever met, she can consciously go to sleep in seconds. Yeah. So after she if hungry and it was like 7 p.m., she'd be like, I'm just going to go to sleep. And then like in seconds, she's out until the morning. So she could just sleep off the hunger sometimes, which was, I don't know anyone else that can do that.
Hey, that is a valuable skill to have, though. The longer you're sleeping, the less you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm a pro sleeper. I brag about it.
She's very good at sleeping.
Awesome. So I had two notes of cool things you guys have accomplished. And I've mentioned in the intro for the people who'll be listening. So obviously now that you're an IFBB Pro, so definitely want to talk about that. And then George, I know you're a helicopter pilot. I think that's pretty badass. I've only gone one ride, so I kind of want to know, like, what was the journey to IFBB Pro? And then George, what's your background that you are a helicopter pilot?
Sure. You go first.
My journey to the Pro League was a hard one, but I was very stubborn because once like I set up this goal, I wasn't going to stop until I achieved it. And I went that first season that I competed, I had no idea what being a pro was or anything like that. So I was just getting my foot in the door and just trying it out. And then when I saw the potential and people were saying you should really try and go to nationals and try out for your IFBB Pro card, I was like, really? Like, I don't see it, but let's try it. And when I did my first MPC show and I got second and qualified automatically, I think that gave me the confidence to really go for it. Because back then, just like right now, people were still saying you can't turn pro unless you take performance enhancement drugs. And I was like, well, I'm going to show you. And then they were like, well, if you're vegan, you're definitely not going to turn pro. So it was almost like I wanted to prove people wrong. Like that was such a big thing for me. And I knew I had two things. Like I'm a really hard worker and I had great genetics. And if I really set my mind to something, I knew I was going to do it. So yeah, that first show really gave me the confidence. And then in 2018, I went and did my second MPC show, won my class. And I think I missed the overall by like a point or something. And then went to my first national show, got third, did an international Olympia, got fourth. And I was always bouncing around, just missing my pro card by 1 or 2 spots. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't give up. So I gave it my all that season. And it took me 3 tries and I finally got it. And it was such a special day because George wasn't supposed to be there. Were you on like
I was at work.
He was at work. Yeah, he was flying somewhere, and Tori was there too because he was trying out for his pro card. He got it actually the day after, which was amazing because there were 2 vegans representing, and we were just really proud because we were all doing the same tour. Corinne was doing the same tour back then with all of us, and we were all just trying to really get this pro card. So George wasn't supposed to be there, and he showed up like an hour before, and I'm like, everything was meant to be. Like my mindset, everything, all the cards, I knew I had put in the work, and when it happened, it was just like, and I saw the person that told me that I couldn't do it, and I literally like went, ha! So it was like the best feeling ever. Yeah.
Nice. What category did you compete in?
I compete in the IFBB bikini.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there's not a lot. There's more professional vegan athletes, which is awesome. Before we get to the helicopter story, I just want to ask one question about the fitness for the people listening that are not familiar with it, because a lot of my listeners are between like 45 and 80. So maybe not say wanting to step on stage, but maybe some of them will. So like, how are you judged on stage? How does it work?
So on stage, depending on your category, you're judged by the size of your muscle. Some categories are bigger than others. For me in particular, the bikini category is based on shape, symmetry. They want to see balance from top to bottom. So they're really looking for that hourglass shape. They want good conditioning, and conditioning means that you're basically lean enough to see your muscles really like popping. They do want a very healthy physique, so you gotta like be basically looking like a bubble, like just very like plump up there. They don't want to see any striations or very grainy muscle like in a bodybuilder category. So there's different categories, but even with that being said, the bikini category can be a very how do you say it, like just fine line between bikini wellness and figure in terms of like size. Just very little things can change, but these bikini girls, they're bigger than ever now. So you do require a lot of muscle. You just have to pose differently.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, George, I'm curious about your story. How did you get to become a helicopter pilot?
It was a long journey. When I was very young, I was probably about 4 years old. I determined that was what I wanted to do with my life. My dad was in the Coast Guard as well. He wasn't a pilot, but I got to see what the Coast Guard was and the missions they did, and I fell in love with it. And then I knew I wanted to fly. I was just fascinated by aircraft my whole life, and so I made that decision at about 4 years old, and then all through high school, everything all I wanted to do was try and get into the Coast Guard Academy and then go into flight school. So I was very, very lucky that I was able to do it. I got initially rejected for the Coast Guard Academy, but I got in on a last minute appointment, and then I nearly failed out, nearly got kicked out, had all kinds of problems getting through the academy. Eventually did, somehow got into flight school. Also tried to fail out of that a few times, came really close to failing out of that, barely made it, but I just kind of didn't give up, kept trying, and eventually I got finished flight school in 2010, and then my first tour was out in Puerto Rico. I was stationed out there, which is where I met Natalie, and so then she's been along the ride ever since. So yeah, it's been, I graduated in 2007 from the academy, so it's been about 17 years now that I've been doing that and flying for almost all of it. And it's been fun. I've been very, very lucky that I've been able to do it. I've seen a lot of different places and got to fly some really fun flights and spend time with amazing people.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, a man in uniform. I love it.
Yeah. She was not impressed.
No. I mentioned this before we started recording. I love to talk about kind of relationship because you guys have a business. I'm sure you maybe have several businesses that I know of together. So one of them is you guys do coaching, but you also kind of create content together. I love your Instagram bio, George. I think it says your professional Instagram husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you guys don't mind sharing a little bit more kind of like what you do online, the coaching and all that. And then I want to get into some like juicy questions because, I have the same dynamic with my wife of working together.
Absolutely. So mainly I would say I am a content creator and a recipe developer. That's kind of my main thing. I love sharing the vegan recipes, and that's kind of how my channel started, just because I wanted to teach people how to cook high protein, but also share recipes that anybody can make. And George became kind of like the behind the scenes guy, where he took over my videography, my editing, all of that. And we just make a really good team because he's a very good creative person. Also keeps me online with everything. I like to ramble sometimes. So it's a really fun dynamic. Sometimes like we'll be on Sundays just literally having fun, just editing a video and just going back and forth on ideas on what we want to do. And it may sound like crazy for some, but yeah, it's really fun doing it with him. It's been really cool, better than me by myself for sure. So yeah.
And it was all really on accident. Like, it was interesting. So if I back up a little bit, like when I met Natalie, she was surfing in Puerto Rico, like for a living. That's what she was doing, and like doing like modeling and like working with the brands and doing that. And then once we met and things got serious, I was like, I got to move. Like the Coast Guard's going to make me move, and I had to go to Florida. So when we moved, she couldn't really do the surfing thing anymore. And then we were both like trying to figure out what we were going to do. Like she was just like trying to figure out where her passions were. And then that was right around the time that we got really into veganism, and she went to culinary school and figured that out. And then like, we really didn't know what we were going to do or where we were going to go with it. And then just kind of figured out like she wanted to share her journey with the veganism, and then got into bodybuilding, kind of merged the two. And then I wasn't really involved at all. Like I was kind of helping and like supporting until we were in the phase. There was a period in time where there was some political stuff going on, and the Coast Guard like wasn't getting paid. So I was like working as a volunteer essentially for a short period. And we started looking at her finances and everything. And we were like, well, we're spending a lot of money on videography, like the videographer and like editing and all this stuff. And I was like, I think I can probably like figure that out. I don't know. And so we like bought the camera equipment. I just started doing it. And the deal was, which is still in place to this day, is that I don't get monetarily, I don't get paid by her business, but she's in charge of all the food. So like the grocery shopping, cooking, all of that. So that's how I get paid. I just make the videos and I get fed because of it. And that's kind of been our arrangement. And then I handle like, again, nothing was like really formal. It was like we started doing it. And then I actually went to school at the academy. I studied management, which was basically business management. And funny because I used to always joke about like, I'm never going to need this. And then turns out I did end up needing it. And so I do a lot of the back end, like dealing with the financial stuff and the books and all that, and then edit the videos and shoot. She's just like the creative, and together we just kind of kept going. Like it never had a direction. Like I still don't think we really have a direction. It's like we're just kind of doing what feels right, and whenever we're passionate about something, we kind of follow that and see where it takes us. And it's been very rewarding to see. Like we often sit around and go like, did you ever think it would turn into this? And like, no, never in our wildest dreams did we think that she'd be doing this for a living and being on podcasts talking about it and stuff like that. So it's been just, I don't know, this happy accident, I guess.
Yeah, and the coaching came about again because when I was competing, I just had no energy for anybody else. And people were asking me all the time, hey, can you do coaching? Can you do coaching? And one of my biggest pet peeves, I was like, I don't want to be the coach that does one show and all of a sudden starts offering coaching, right? I was like, I need to be educated. I need to learn. I need to be the guinea pig. I need to have mentors. I need, you know, I'm somebody that doesn't launch anything unless I feel 110%. So literally for the 8 years, I was like, it's not going to happen until it's just right. And once I decided to step away from the stage, I was like, I think this is the right time to do it. And I knew I wanted to do something different. And I think the challenge-based coaching was kind of what suited me because we've always been about community and we love the community aspect of it, but I felt like there was something missing in that space and I wanted to fix it. So I was like, let's do this. And we did our first challenge in January and it went absolutely incredible. I mean, I got so lucky to have an amazing group of women and I'm so inspired by them every single day. And it's so fun to like finally be in a position to give back to everybody that helped me get to where I am for the past 8 years. And I said no and no and no. And so many people did the challenge said, I've been waiting for this moment for 8 years. And that was really cool to see that now I finally get to meet these people that have been behind the screen because I've been talking to a camera by myself for years. So it's been really rewarding. And I fell in love with it. And we did a second challenge, but I did not open it again to the public. I kept my same core group because there was unfinished business. I did an 8-week challenge in January and I was like, this is not enough time. I need more time with these women. And we did a repeat and now we're in this phase where we're trying to improve it. So we're taking a little bit of a break because I want to improve some things behind the scenes, some app stuff and things like that, and just make it better. So the experience is even, leveled up from last time.
Oh, beautiful. Well, for the people listening, I want more information. I'll put your website down below for everyone to have.
Thank you.
But yeah, I love the story. You guys' story about like working there is a lot better than mine and my wife. It was more like, hey, can you make sure I'm autofocused? Can you press record? And then I was like, can you just stand behind the camera? While I was like, oh, can you kind of like zoom in with the lens? And then she's like, okay, I'm basically your videographer at this point.
But yeah, there you go.
I love it.
Yeah. So how do you guys come up with your recipe ideas and your videos for YouTube?
So the recipe ideas come, I don't know, they come to me out of nowhere, or I'll research like popular recipes and I'll veganize them. I always like that challenge of veganizing like a viral recipe or something like that. The main cookbook, Fit Vegan Kitchen, was basically all the recipes that I created while I was in my dieting phases because I was so creative making these low calorie, high protein dense foods. I put them all in the book just so people would have like a one-stop shop for all of that if they were in their own journey. So that's kind of how that got built. But currently I'm just trying to continue and see what else can I do because I feel like I've made pretty much everything. So it's just about getting creative with these same recipes and transforming them all over again. So now I'm having a lot of fun just looking at those viral recipes and veganizing them.
Yeah. Well, you did all the low calorie stuff. Now you can do the high calorie stuff because you're a hybrid athlete and you can eat more food. So
Right?
you can go for
Right?
the like the real vegan chocolate chip, right? Not the like
Right.
low sugar one.
That's true. That's true. Today I was actually making a cookie, and I'm like, ooh, I can actually use vegan butter instead of like using aquafaba or just some nut butter. Like I can actually use the thing. So that was
like
kind
not
of
powdered peanut butter, like real peanut butter.
Yeah.
exactly.
Hey,
Exactly.
Yep.
So
some
that's
people
been
don't
kind of like a
understand the
great
pain.
Yeah.
Have you ever connected with Carly from Plant U?
No, I recently started following her because my friend Stephanie, that vegan babe, they're connected. So I saw her through her and I started following her. She's amazing. She has so many like great recipes. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. I just had her on the show, I think last week. We just recorded
Oh
an episode
no.
together.
Awesome.
She was in New York at the same time we were in New York. So we kind of had to try a bunch of vegan restaurants. But yeah, she's super sweet. You guys should definitely try to connect.
That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like obviously the challenges and the coaching is something that's kind of, you knew where you guys are working on, you're working on improving it. Any other project that you guys are working on that you would like to share with the audience?
That's the main one. I dabble into researching more about maybe turning my cookbook into a paper copy, but that's still not yet kind of like a thing. It's a lot of hard work and it takes the whole army to do. So I'm still trying to figure that out if that's even a possibility. So, but yeah, for now, it's just that I really just want to continue improving the coaching and the app and just level that up. That's like my new baby. And we have a couple of events that we're training for together, which will be really unique and fun to do as a team. So yeah.
Nice. What are some of those races you guys going to do?
We're training for a High Rocks right now. So it's like a racing event with functional fitness mixed in between. Like there's stations similar to CrossFit, but no Olympic weightlifting. So that's really fun. And you could do it as a mixed double. So I really wanted to do that with George.
In the Spartan. We got a Spartan race in December that we're training for. Nice. It's like a half marathon distance essentially with all the obstacles and stuff. And then what else are we doing?
I think that's it for now.
That's it. Yeah, that's what we're training
Which
for.
feels weird because usually we have a lot of things in the calendar due to competing, but it's kind of refreshing not to have it all booked up for once.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are gonna have a blast with the Spartan race. I just did one with my wife like maybe
nice.
4 months ago. We did the shorter one because she's never done any race in her entire life. Like she's never competed in anything, and so yeah, it was really fun. So like I was holding her on the monkey bars to kind of.
Nice.
Cool.
Did you do it in California?
Yeah, we did in California. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Which one did you do?
I can't remember the name of it. It was a lake something. It was a lake. It was by a lake.
Okay, we did the Tejon Ranch one, and then we did another shorter one. I forget where it was though, but they were beautiful in California because all the mountains and stuff. Yeah. It's really nice running out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a lake surrounded by mountains. See if I have the medal here. I think.
Oh, I wonder if did you do the Tahoe one?
No, we didn't drive up to Tahoe. No, it was maybe like 2 hours from Thousand Oaks driving towards San Diego kind of area.
Oh, okay.
It was like more inland than San Diego, but yeah, it was a beautiful one. It was super fun. I actually blew up the whole picture that we took at the end, and it's on our wall.
That's cool.
In the house. Yeah, you guys are gonna have a blast with that. I'm excited to see that. Are you guys gonna film it? If you're gonna do it,
we're gonna try. We'll try. This one doesn't seem very.
There's a lot of water.
There's a lot of water on this one because everything here is flat. It's not as beautiful as California. So I was asking George, do you know what it looks like? And he YouTube it, and yeah, it's pretty flat.
Going through this river, ponds, like all kinds. There's a lot of water.
So we'll have to figure something out. But yeah
just a GoPro. I just had a GoPro on my head. I had one in the hand. It was hard to film and do it, but
figure something out.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Love to ask you guys one question, more on the couple side of kind of like working together. How do you guys, and maybe it's a selfish question for me, all right? So how do you guys manage to kind of divide the roles in not necessarily stay within your lane, but kind of stay within your lane when it comes to the creativity and kind of getting things done? Because, I made some jokes before we started that I'm like, fuck, like cut this clip, press record. Like you're trying to work together, and sometimes it's a little bit cranky. So how do you guys manage that?
He has his system down.
I think for us, it works out pretty well because we just have kind of our strengths that we are good at, and like just do those. And then like I let her do a lot of the other stuff. Like sometimes the filming and the editing is tricky because I'll have like a vision and she has a vision. Sometimes those aren't the same vision, but usually it works, and she trusts me and then I trust her, and we'll just kind of do it. And a lot of times, like, I don't know, like she never even asks like the financial, like business part of like the back end stuff. She doesn't even ask. Like she doesn't, I just handle that and it's fine. And then like same with a lot of her, like for the VFit and the coaching and stuff, I don't know anything about it. Like she handles that 100% on her own. Same with a lot of the content, her brand stuff, like all of that she totally handles. And then she'll come to me like, hey, I need to do a video on this, like help me shoot it. And then I'll help her shoot it and do that stuff. So I think it's just like very, I wouldn't say we have like clearly defined roles, but like it just, we know what each other handles and what we're able to do quickly and easily, and just kind of do that. And then like she'll come to me a lot of times because, I mean, given my background, I've been in the military for my whole adult life, like organizing like projects and like keeping things on track and like coming up with plans is like something good. So a lot of times she'll get like overwhelmed with like all these projects, and I have to like sit down and be like, okay, like we'll create a timeline here. We'll break this down into small tasks. We're going to do this. Like, here's the next thing you got to prioritize and execute it here and like figure that out. And so it kind of works like, and the way it's kind of a good match because the way our brains work too is like totally different, where she's like very creative and she'll like analyze and like think about these things. And I'm like, no, we just need to create a system and like get it done and move on to the next thing. Like, I need you to focus on this and like get it done. And she's like being creative and like thinking about other stuff. So it's interesting.
Yeah. The other day, the last video that we filmed, I think that one was a really good one. And I was really shocked by the editing because I filmed it all by myself, and I was so nervous because when he's behind the camera, he knows what he's shooting because he already has what he wants to edit. Like he has that whole plan in his head. So I'm always so nervous. Like when I'm going to do it by myself, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to give him garbage and he's going to be like, what am I going to do with this? So yeah, it has happened. And I was like, I filmed everything and I gave it to him. And when he put it together, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was way better than I would have edited myself. So he has really found my voice in his editing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
And I mean, every once in a while we like disagree on stuff, or like I haven't been 100%, but like really at the end of the day, like it's her business and like she's in charge of it, and like I'm there to kind of support. So, you know, I'll have my opinions or whatever, and I'll tell her. But more than anything, it's like generally I just tell her to go for it. Like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this or that. I'm like, just do it. Like, I don't know, like have a blast. Like, do whatever. And so, I mean, it works out, and yeah, it's kind of lower stakes too, you know, like she's not paying me. So
he gets fed, which is a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always need a creative person and like a system oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He reeled me back in a lot. Like I have a lot of ideas and a lot of tasks that I want to accomplish in one day. He's like, no, let's break it down. So he helps me a lot on that.
I'll be like, hey, we're trying to make like a outline for this next YouTube video. You should be like, what if we just do a video on this other topic that has nothing? I'm like, put that on a different list somewhere, put a pin in that, and like I need you to, like, we're on the intro of this video right now. Like I need you to focus here. And it can be a challenge, but that creativity it got us, you know, where she's at. So it's important to have.
Yeah. But I think again, you guys are going to are going further together. Because when you have that creative and that system-oriented person, it makes a difference. Because Ivy's the same. I'll be like, what if we, like, I'm looking for an idea for a video. She's like, what if we do? And then she goes in different directions. And then I'm like, I'm very system-oriented as well. And I'm like, okay, logistically, that's going to cost like $5,000 to make the video. Like, we're not going to do this video. Like, this one, we can go grocery shopping and it's easy, right? We can just rent a gym and do it. But you guys are doing a good job because the videos look great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, honestly, massive thank you for taking the time to record with me. Went over an hour. I appreciate your patience with all my questions. Yeah. Any last notes you guys would like to pass off to the listeners?
Oh, thank you so much for having us. This was great. Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for your time, guys. And everyone listening, I will put all their links down below to the website so you can stay tuned for their challenge, a YouTube channel. She does make a lot of delicious videos. Before I started Fit Vegan over 4 years ago, I was actually listening to some of those videos when I was cutting. And I was trying to make some of the recipes. They didn't look as nice. They looked terrible because I could do the base, but I didn't have that final touch to it. All right. So you guys be sure to go check that out. I'll put their Instagram, go show them some love. And thank you everyone for listening. We will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.